You know, that's the quote that's on the wall at the 9/11 Museum, where you'll find a art piece similar to this quilt, and it's got all the color swatches. There's a different shade of blue for each person who died in 9/11 on September 11th, 2001, as well as those who died in 1993 at the World Trade Center bombing. Um, you know, this art piece is really special to me. It's my favorite thing at the museum. You know, it's just representative of the lives that were lost, and it's also, you know, the extension of the artwork is called "Trying to Remember the Color of Blue That Day." You know, if you'll remember, the sky was that real pretty blue color, and you know, everyone sees that day differently and has their own story of where they were. I don't think anybody watching this will forget, you know, where they were on September 11th when they heard the news. But it's just a really great piece. So the reason why I was making this video, and you know, here we are again. It's September 11th, actually tomorrow, as of the time I'm recording this, and it's 2020. And what a year it's been. You know, I was in New York for the first part of 2020, for the first half, and then recently moved back to Memphis. And while I was there, you know, going through the pandemic and, you know, some of those darker days, it was kind of an inspiration to me. You know, a lot of different things were, and one of which was this quilt that was being made. And this quilt was made by my mom. She's expert quilt maker. She has one of those big machines, and she makes a quilt for someone in our family every year. And she started off making it for the grandkids and then her kids. And being the oldest in the group, mine was last, and it just happened to fall on this year, which was perfect timing. You know, she usually tries to make the quilt have something to do with, you know, what that child or grandchild is interested in. I think she's done some on Star Wars and some other patterns. For me, I'm not that into quilts, so she had asked me back about this time last year what I wanted on my quilt, and so I was excited that she was going to make one for me. I know how much time and effort goes into it, but I had no idea even what to tell her. So I was like, well, you know, I like blues and grays, even black is fine, you know, so some kind of color scheme like that, and I don't really care about the pattern. And a couple of days later, you know, I was flipping through some things, and I was reminded of this art piece that's in New York and at the museum. And I was like, you know what? I would love something like that. And it worked out good for her too, I think, because now she knew what I wanted and she could make that happen. And you know, it's not an exact replica, obviously, but she did a really good job. I didn't really want an exact replica. I counted this. There's like, it doesn't look like it here, and it overlaps over the overhang, but it's about twice the size of what you see. But there's about 500 squares that were quilted together in that before she even put the backing on. So there's a lot of time that goes into these. You know, if you're a YouTube or content creator, you've got that idea of how long it takes to edit video, and nobody else really understands that except for content creators and video editors. I feel like it's probably the same way for quilters. No one understands exactly how much love and technique goes into it. So I was really thankful that my mom sent this to me. And it actually, you know, she gave it to me when I arrived back in Memphis. And it has special meaning. And just all that went on in New York, especially the first half of this year. And it's just the idea of it and the concept of it. And with 2020 and the virus, you know, and us going through some of that in New York, surviving it, and then coming back here, it just had that much more special meaning to me. So something that I thought, you know, I would love a quilt that my mom made, but I'm not really that into quilts. Now, you know, I get it, and it means a lot to me, and it's perfect. As far as 9/11 goes, September 11th, 2020, here we are again at another anniversary. And it's hard to believe that it's been 19 years. And, you know, when I was in Memphis before I moved to New York, there was this strange feeling, and I know it sounds crazy, but there was this strange feeling to me that something might happen again there one day. And as strange as it sounds, you know, I hoped I was there for it. I I wish I would have been there on September 11th. I know that sounds crazy, but for certain people, the city calls to you. A friend of mine told me that, and I think that's accurate. So, we ended up going to New York and stayed for 3 years. I won't get into everything that happened with the virus on this video. I created a different video for that, and you can watch that here. But, it really has, it hits different when it's September 11th, because that was, at least in my lifetime, that was the biggest event, certainly was in New York City, that had happened. And it was sad, and it was, it was just it's not a pleasant thing. Last year on September 10th, actually a year ago from right now, we went down to Ground Zero and we interviewed a lady that was there. She was one of the first responders. I talked to some other people on the phone, and we were going to make a documentary for the 20-year anniversary next year. Long story short, we're not going to do that. Those stories are still pretty raw for some people, and I don't think we're prepared to get it right just yet. Maybe one day we will. The other part of that is it takes a toll on you. I had probably 4 people that I was talking to that were there. One of the guys had a crew that went in with him of 6 people, and he was the only one to come out alive. You start hearing some of those stories, and it didn't go exactly like, at least in my head, I thought it was. And a lot of the people we talked to are still pretty scarred, as you can imagine. And I don't want to get that story wrong. Maybe a couple of years from now, maybe for the 25 year, we'll do something, I don't know. But we're not in New York City anymore, so that complicates things. But anyway, this feeling of, something else might happen similar to September 11th, I didn't know for sure. And I didn't know what it was, but I did want to be there, and that's not what we spent all of our time thinking about while we were in New York City, but certain things would remind me of it, and I enjoyed going down to, the memorial, seeing the names, the fountains. It's a beautiful place, and but it's a respectful place, and I know that'll be going on tomorrow. I hope that they read all the names out. I haven't looked into that. I know they were talking about not putting up the 2 beams of light. I've seen that in person. It's amazing, and I hope that they do that. I'd heard that they reversed their decision and decided they would still do it. The museum is usually involved with that, and I hope they make that happen. I hope they read the names out again. I know they probably won't do that forever. It's like Pearl Harbor. I'm not close to that story, so it didn't happen in my lifetime, and eventually, I don't think we forget things like that, but eventually maybe they don't read all the names out again. So, I don't know what's going to happen down there tomorrow on September 11th, 2020, but my thoughts and prayers are with those in New York going through the virus right now, looking to rebuild their careers and their businesses and their lives, and specifically the ones who have their own 9/11 stories and were there for September 11th, and the first responders. So never forget.